So you're thinking about buying a cabin because you're ready to get out of the rat race to the city. There's going to be a ton of things you need to know, and I'm going to be sharing them all with you. It's not going to be an easy process, but I guarantee you that I'm going to tell you things about getting a cabin no one has ever told you before. I can assure you of that. First idea on how to get yourself a cabin. Find some land, buy a cabin in a pack, plop it down on the land. Now, if it was that easy, every person and their dog would have a cabin, and it's not that easy, so watch on. I'm going to go into buying land in really great detail and what you need to know about that, so make sure to stick around. First, about the cabin in a kit. This is called prefabricated, where it's built elsewhere and then shipped to the site. And there are different kinds, but I like the den cabin, so I'm going to talk about that in this video. I'm also going to put a link in the description below so you can look at it after this video. There really are a lot of different brands of modular or prefabricated cabins, but I chose to talk about den because they're super cute A-frames that come in a couple of variations. I'm going to go through some of the costs and other expenses that you probably haven't thought of. The Den Bunk Plus kit itself costs about $50,000, but this won't be an all-inclusive cost. For example, in Minnesota, where I live and work, we'd have to add extra insulation in the walls to keep it warmer in winter, and that's going to cost extra. We'd want to add a little wood-burning fireplace for coziness, and you might add a deck and railings, so add another $5,000 for deck and railings. Add another $4,000 for fixtures and fittings, sink and toilet, another $5,000 for lighting and electrician and their labor, $10,000 to have someone put it all together. If you're handy, you can do that yourself. I'm not, so I'm going to add that into my numbers. It takes about 2 weeks for this kind of cabin to be put together, not including the electrical or plumbing or prepping the site or laying the foundation. You can budget about $8,000 to $10,000 for foundation. Also site work, which is flattening the building pad and adding in fill material, so $2,000 to $3,000 for that. We're also going to factor in for a septic system because you're adding a flushing toilet to your cabin, because who wants to go to the bathroom in an outhouse or use a composting toilet? Not many people I know. So let's add in about $16,000 to $18,000 for that. So all in, you're looking at roughly about $95,000 for this cabin, which is a pretty good price for a cabin, but we haven't factored in the land cost yet. Depending on where you live, this could be $50,000 or it could be $1 million. Where I live in Minnesota, lakefront lots range from $50,000 situated a 4 to 5 hour drive from the Twin Cities to anywhere from $350,000 to $1 million plus for a lakefront lot within the Twin Cities. It depends on the lake and the lot and the suburb. If you're open to having a cabin that isn't waterfront, in Minnesota, you might be able to find land for as little as starting from $30,000. If you're looking for acreage or a substantial plot or something like riverfront or nearby a popular resort town like Duluth or Lutsen or Alexandria, you can expect to pay more. Now, there are some things you need to know with buying land. If you see what looks like an interesting property, here's the things that you have to think about and look for. Has it had a survey? How about a perk test? What is the size of the land? Has it been cleared? Have the corners been marked? How much is the land? What is the zoning? Make sure to write down what you like about the property and what you don't like about it. Find a way to keep track of all this information. I like to use a spreadsheet for all my notes. I promise you that once you start looking at multiple pieces of land, they are all going to start to run together. That even happens with houses, so it happens even more with land. Some other things to think about. Does the land have a road leading to the parcel? Who's responsible for maintaining the road? The city or the county or the homeowners or neighbors? Does this property have access rights to the road to get to the land itself, or is it landlocked? If you find what looks to be a great deal on land online, have your real estate agent check to make sure that the buyer has the legal right to get to that property. A landlocked parcel is almost useless. Also, have your agent verify the zoning of the land you're looking at. If you want to build a cabin and you think you found the right piece of property to do that on, it would be a huge bummer to find out it's zoned agricultural, for example. Never assume that you can do what you want with the property. Make sure to visit the property during different kinds of weather. Go check it out after it rains if you can. Is there standing water anywhere? Depending on your building envelope or where you're going to put your cabin, those wet patches on the land could cost you money later on to add drains or downspouts or grading. So be very familiar with this land. If there's no survey, get a survey. You want to make sure you know where the property boundaries are and that there are no encroachments. What is an encroachment? The term encroachment refers to a situation in real estate where a property owner violates the property rights of his neighbor by building on or extending a structure to the neighbor's land or property intentionally or otherwise. Now, these tips are super important if you're either thinking of buying land to put a cabin on or buying land to build on, but there are other things you can put on the lot to enjoy the cabin culture in the meantime as well. Some people opt to buy Amish log cabins, or as the name implies, log cabins built by the Amish and transported on a truck onto the site, usually being lowered down by a crane. These log cabins are often handmade and made to order and can cost as little as $25,000 on up to over $100,000 plus. They do not come with plumbing and electricity, and it's the responsibility of the buyer to get that set up. Some of the additional costs I shared about the modular cabin will apply to the Amish log cabins as well. So rewind this video and rewatch some of the additional costs I shared, which may be relevant. Just a heads up that while the Amish don't have electricity or cell phones, they are allowed to work with those who do. So you may want to call ahead before driving out to take a look at a cabin just to make sure they're going to be around that day and not elsewhere. Maybe you've considered going in on a lake home or vacation home with another couple or another family and sharing it. That can be a great option, or it can totally blow up in your face without proper preparation. Here's some really important tips. First, choose the other partner or partners very carefully. More important than being buddies with your house share partners is ensuring your group is made up of reasonable, rational people that you feel comfortable working through issues and airing grievances with. And grievances are almost assured. Next, make sure you have clear rules established. Here's some things you're going to want to think about for rules. Pets. So are pets allowed? You might want to allow them if you're pet people, but if pets begin to damage the house, you may need to rethink that rule. Cleaning. You might insist on a cleaning service because no one wants to arrive at their vacation home at 10 p.m. to find a mess. And truthfully, it'll make your whole visit more fun, not having to launch into cleaning mode on the way out. You might elect for a self-service, and if you do, consider a checklist for the owners to follow so that everyone cleans to the same standards. What do you do when something breaks? You also don't want to arrive to your cabin late at night to find a fridge that has broken and a co-cabin owner who says they forgot to call in the repair person. One rule that some cabin co-owners follow is that if something breaks on your watch, it's your job to replace or repair it. And then if there isn't time, you can let your next visitor know and do what you can to rectify the situation. Next thing to think about with rules, maintenance. Shared ownership equals shared responsibility, so everyone should be pitching in. You might want to consider making a checklist of tasks like changing filters, shining windows, and deep cleaning the fridge. Then everyone gets to pick a couple of tasks to accomplish each quarter. How are you going to handle renting out the cabin? First, you have to agree on whether it's allowed. If it is, who gets the money? For example, do I get to keep the money if my friend rents my week, or does it go into a pool? Some cabin co-owners elect not to rent the house. They find that the weeks that people would have rented it were the same weeks that other co-owners wanted to use it. If you do opt to rent the cabin, then the money might be put into a joint fund to handle a big expense like a roof repair. Next, how is the time divided up and how do the different co-owners get to choose their time? Let's face it, everyone might want the week between Christmas and New Year's or spring break or Labor Day, but you have to divide up these prime times equally. There are many ways to divide up the weeks, and one way is what's called a serpentine draft, which means that you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1 pattern, assuming you have 4 owners. So the family that gets the 4th pick gets to pick 2 weeks in a row. Then the co-owners keep picking until all the holidays are gone and summer has been divvied up, and then they just assigned the random weeks so that each family had 1 week a month. Then throughout the year, you can make sure that the co-owners know if they wouldn't be using an extra week so someone else could trade it or use an extra week. The next thing you want to think about with the co-ownership option is an exit strategy. If one of the partners wants out, what happens? Do they offer first right of refusal to the other owners in case they want to buy another share? If not, who's responsible for finding a replacement family? What sort of approval do you have? Depending on how long you own the house, your plans might change, so it's smart to think about a succession plan. What is your budget for common expenses? You're going to want to figure out what your fixed monthly expenses are, including the mortgage payment with property taxes and insurance insurance, plus any homeowner's insurance and HOA dues if that applies, and then determine what the monthly utilities are likely to run so you have a figure that each owner must deposit at a set time each month. For example, you might wish to add in $30 per family per month to build an emergency fund in case the furnace goes out or the roof needs replacing. Some people in this situation will set up a joint bank account, and that makes it easy for the consistent bills to be paid seamlessly. And don't forget the expense of furnishing the place if it comes unfurnished. This is an area that needs some definite ground rules. Some people might have champagne tastes and go on a crazy shopping spree and then stick their fellow owners with the remainder of the bill, and others might be happy to furnish the place with cast-offs from their own house or garage sale finds. So all of the owners need to get together and create a list of needs and budget accordingly. These options provide a number of opportunities for getting a lake cabin or vacation place affordably. If you liked this video, I'll put a link above for another one you'll probably enjoy, and make sure to leave me a comment letting me know where you'd love to own your own cabin.